Are you dreaming about moving to Puerto Vallarta, but wondering how much it actually costs to live here? Is it really cheaper than the US or Canada? What about rent, groceries, utilities, lifestyle expenses? Well, today I'm breaking down the real cost of living in Puerto Vallarta. And trust me, you might be surprised. Hola, hola, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Diani Leal, real estate broker and investment consultant based in Puerto Vallarta and Riviera Nayarit, Mexico. And this channel is brought to you by Diani Investment Realty, which is brokered by EXP. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. It really makes a big difference for individuals like myself, doing my best to bring you something of value. And of course, don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm always interested in your feedback. Today, we're diving into the cost of living in Puerto Vallarta. From housing and groceries to healthcare and lifestyle, whether you're thinking about retiring here, working remotely, or investing in property, I'll give you a realistic breakdown of what you can expect to spend if you choose to pull the trigger and live here indefinitely. So, let's get into it. So, number one, housing costs, renting versus buying. When it comes to living in Puerto Vallarta and surrounding areas, the cost of renting or buying, like anywhere else, depends a lot on location. Today, I'm going to use a 2-bedroom condo as an example just to maintain consistency for the comparisons and also because it's the most popular type of inventory in Puerto Vallarta. As I mentioned, I'm a real estate broker, so this particular section is my specialty, and I'll be breaking it down with a little bit of extra detail. And I'll be happy to flesh it out a little bit more in any area that interests you. So please don't hesitate to reach out or let me know in the comments. So first up, let's talk about renting. So if you're looking to rent a 2-bedroom condo, this is what it looks like in different areas. And one thing I want to mention quickly before we get started by breaking down the different regions is that if you choose furnished over unfurnished, you can expect to pay a little bit more per month. So if you're interested in committing on a long-term basis to a rental and you decide you want to furnish it, then you're going to be looking at the lower end of this range of rental costs. And if you do decide to get it furnished, expect to pay at least a couple $100 more per month. Okay, so first up, Zona Romantica and Conchas Chinas. This is probably one of the most expensive areas you can live in Puerto Vallarta. Everything is walkable, it's pretty upscale, there are some nice views. You're basically right in the center of the city. So if you choose to live in this area, you can expect to spend about $2,500 to $4,500 per month for a 2-bedroom condo. Then you have the Fluvial and Versailles area. You may have heard of this area before. It's an emerging region that has a little bit more accessible housing prices than the more popular and developed Zona Romantica and Conchas Chinas. And the Fluvial Versailles area has a large range between modern places and old-fashioned places. So if you're looking at a little bit more of an older building, you might be able to find one for about $900 a month. But if you're going to go up to a more modern, new construction building that has a wide range of amenities and is nicely furnished, you might be expecting to spend a little bit closer to $2,500 per month. Then we have Marina Vallarta. This is a luxury upscale area. Many places have views of the marina. Some have views of the golf course. It's quiet, it's residential, it's very safe. There are very wide, luxurious roads. It's spacious, it's pretty nice. So if you're interested in a 2-bedroom condo in Marina Vallarta, you can expect to spend between $2,000 and $3,500 USD per month. And then we have Nuevo Vallarta. So we're just kind of heading north up here along the coast. And Nuevo Vallarta is where you go into Nayarit. In Nayarit, along the Banderas Bay, prices are a little bit lower and you get a little bit more space for your dollar. However, the 2 most popular areas in Riviera Nayarit are Nuevo Vallarta and Bucerias, and they're a little bit more pricey than other parts of this region. Nuevo Vallarta is basically a gated community and it has a resort lifestyle. There are a lot of resorts in this area. You can expect to rent a 2-bedroom condo in this area between $1,500 USD and about $3,500 USD per month. And then you have bucerias. So bucerias is very interesting. There's a wide range of availabilities for rentals, and there's two sides of the highways of bucerias. It's actually a lot bigger than people imagine because there's the popular areas of bucerias that are more common with the tourists, and that's the golden zone in bucerias, and that has particularly higher prices. And then you have the areas on the other side of the highway, the main highway that goes down the coast of Puerto Vallarta and Riviera Nayarit. And on the other side of the highway, you will find much more affordable housing prices. And on this side of the highway, you could expect to rent a 2-bedroom condo or even house for about $700 a month. And then if you head into the golden zone, you're on the beach, it's very populated. There are a lot of events and things to do and restaurants and several activities, and you can expect to spend, especially for an oceanfront condo, up to $3,000 per month. And finally, there's the area of Mezcales and Valle Dorado. These are more residential communities that are less popular with tourists and have much more affordable housing. This is located pretty much between Bucerias and Nuevo Vallarta, and it is not on the coast. If you chose to rent a 2-bedroom condo in either of these areas, you can expect to spend somewhere between $500 and $1,000 per month. So let's talk about buying. If you're thinking about buying, here's what the current market looks like for a 2-bedroom condo in each area. What this means for you on a monthly basis depends on your financing situation, but do keep in mind that mortgages in Mexico carry an 8 to 12% interest rate and require 40% down for foreign buyers. Also, keep in mind that if you aren't planning on moving here for a couple of years, pre-construction discounts can save you money. But that comes with pros and cons. And of course, that's a whole other video. But do let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in learning more about. So, Zona Romantica, Conchas Chinas area, a 2-bedroom condo will probably cost you between $500,000 and $1 million and up US dollars. And remembering, this is our more upscale area of Puerto Vallarta. In the Fluvial Versailles area, you can expect to spend more between $250K to $450K USD for a 2-bedroom condo. In Marina Vallarta, 2-bedroom condos range between $400K and $800K USD. In Nuevo Vallarta, you're looking at between $350K and about $700K. In Bucerias, 2-bedroom condos range between $300K and $800K to also over $1 million for oceanfront properties. And going back to our Valle Dorado Mezcales region, you're going to be looking at between $100K and $200K for a 2-bedroom condo. So whether you're looking to rent or buy, as you can see, prices vary significantly with each location. Expect to pay a premium in areas like Zona Romantica, Conchas Chinas, Bucerias, and Nuevo Vallarta. But if you're fine with living in places like Mezcales or Fluvial, a little bit further from the coast, you'll spend significantly less on housing. And of course, if you're thinking of buying, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find my contact information here in the video description and on the bio to my page. And I'll also pin a comment right there so you can easily reach out to me and contact me via WhatsApp or Calendly, Instagram, whatever your preferred method is. I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more about the details of the housing market in Puerto Vallarta. So number 2, groceries and dining out. Let's talk about food. So can you live here on a budget? Absolutely. But you can also spend a lot. So shopping at La Comer, for example, which is like the Mexican version of Whole Foods, and buying primarily imported items will definitely be similar to shopping in the US. Additionally, if you're buying imported items from Costco or Sam's Club, you're also going to be looking at prices that are more similar to the US. But if you're shopping for domestic items in local supermarkets, such as Walmart, Mega, Lale, this can significantly reduce your food budget. And it really just depends on determining what imported items you can't live without. For me, it's wine and salmon. I will definitely spend a little bit extra to make sure that these things are included in my life because I love them and that impacts my quality of life and it makes it more comfortable for me to live here and just generally be happy. So it's worth it for me. But it really does depend what's worth it for you. The good news is these items are accessible. I've lived in places before where they actually are not available at all. So I'm willing to pay a little bit more just knowing that they're available. But I also know that if I'm willing to brave the long lines at Costco, that I can save more on these items and get them at higher quality. Costco, for example, also has higher quality poultry, USDA beef, fresh seafood, imported snacks, and just some other things that really make it worth the trip and the lines. And of course, you can stock up on those items and save. Another big way to save money is shopping at local markets. You can get everything from eggs to deli meat to toilet paper to pet food at significantly lower prices. This is mainly because those heavy overhead costs that are incorporated into the prices in the supermarkets are not necessarily an issue at your local corner store, so they're able to price down significantly some of these items and really save you money. So there's a price range depending on where you shop. But I'm going to give you some standard Walmart prices for key items to give you an idea. So first up, boneless chicken breasts, 109 pesos per kilo, which is about $2.50 USD per pound. While in the US, you can expect to spend a little over $4 per pound. Now, I should also take this opportunity to mention I'm comparing to US prices, but the US is obviously a very large country and prices vary significantly by region in the US. This is just to put it side by side and give you a little bit of perspective. 2, eggs. Eggs will cost you here 43 pesos for a dozen eggs, which is about $2.15 US for a dozen eggs. Whereas in the States nowadays, you can expect to spend about $4.95 on average for a dozen eggs. 3, cheese. So queso manchego, which is a national domestic cheese, you can expect to spend about 99 pesos for 450 grams, which is about $5 a pound. So this is one that might surprise you a little bit because in the US, you can expect to spend on average about $4.50 per pound of domestic cheese. So it's actually slightly cheaper in the US than in Mexico. So cheese is expensive in Mexico. And this is bad news if you love cheese. So 4, beer. So a 6-pack of domestic beer, let's take Modelo for example, is going to cost you about $5. In the US, this really varies widely state to state, but averages about $10 for a 6-pack of domestic beer. And finally, fruit, for example, apples will cost you about 40 pesos for a kilo, which is about 90 cents per pound. Whereas in the US, you can expect to spend about $2 per pound or more. Okay, so let's talk about eating out. With eating out, you really have choices. For example, if you go and get street tacos, you're going to be spending about $2 to $5 per meal, which is usually about 3 tacos. Eating at a mid-range restaurant will cost you about $10 to $20 USD per person. And if you go to a more high-end dining, and there's a lot of that in Puerto Vallarta, you can expect to spend closer to $50 and up per person. So when it comes to food, you can live frugally or go all out. It just really depends on your lifestyle. 3, utilities and internet. Utilities here in Mexico are much cheaper than they are in the US, except for air conditioning. But there are workarounds. So with minimum AC use, you can expect to spend about $30 to $100 per month on your electricity bill. And with heavy AC use, which is pretty much inevitable in the hot summer months, this jumps to about $150 to $300 a month. Many people install solar panels, which range from about $400 to $600 US per panel. And it takes on average 6 to 12 panels to support and supplement the majority of the electricity use in your house, depending on, of course, the size of your house and how much coverage you're looking for. But this investment up front will reduce your electric bill significantly. And water is super cheap, between $20 and $40 a month. And you also need gas for your house, for hot water and cooking and doing laundry. And this will cost you around $50 a month. Internet, of course, this is an important detail. A lot of foreigners work remotely and really do depend on that internet signal. So the good news is there are a lot of options. And the other good news is that they're pretty affordable. So most options will cost you between $30 and $50 a month and range everywhere from your local telephone company's internet connection to fiber optic to Starlink. But really, you most likely aren't going to be spending much more than about $50 per month on your internet. Okay, so next up, for transportation costs. Some people choose to purchase a vehicle, and this also really depends on your lifestyle and your needs. And then others want to know, can I walk around? Can I take Uber? Can I take a bus? Can I take a taxi? And what are the costs associated with all of this? So first, we're going to talk about the option of purchasing a vehicle and maintaining a vehicle and what that might cost. So for brand new cars, economy, basic models from brands like Nissan, Chevy, Volkswagen are typically going to range between 11K US to 17,000 USD. And more mid-range models, sedans, SUVs from reputable brands are usually priced between 19K and 33,000 USD. And of course, luxury models can go all the way up to 50,000 USD. And then there are used vehicles. So the pre-owned car market does offer a wide range of prices, and many times people go to Guadalajara to have a little bit more options. Generally speaking, depending on the make, the model, the year of the vehicle, you can spend between 5,000 and about 15,000 USD. And of course, for some additional considerations, sales tax in Mexico is 16%, so you can pretty much expect to pay that on any of your purchases. Unless you buy a used vehicle in cash on Facebook Marketplace, then maybe not, but do so at your own risk. Then you have your mandatory annual car registration. This is only going to cost you about 50 to 100 bucks a year. And then you have insurance. Auto insurance is not expensive in Mexico at all. For basic coverage, you can expect to spend about $300 a year. But the main catch is if your car actually does get damaged and you need to utilize that coverage, just expect it to take a long time, like several months. And they will cover it, but you will go without a vehicle for longer than you would like. And then there's maintenance and fuel. I could pretty much do a whole video about maintaining a used vehicle because that's what I purchased when I first came here. This could be a little bit more difficult if you don't speak Spanish and if you experience some challenges navigating the whole car repair industry here in Puerto Vallarta. You basically need to go to a different place for each type of repair. And there can be a little bit of a learning curve at the beginning. So this aspect can be a little bit more challenging if you choose to purchase a used vehicle that might require more maintenance than a new one. So it's something to consider. And of course, maintenance costs can vary widely depending on what kind of vehicle you have. Another thing to consider is to get a vehicle with a make and model that's common here in Puerto Vallarta. So keep your eyes peeled and look and see what kind of cars you see often. Talk to the dealer about the kind of cars they sell the most. This is going to make a big difference when it comes to repairs, and you need to get replacement parts. You want to make sure that those parts are accessible. So do you need a car? The answer is probably not, and also it depends on a lot of different factors, whether you have kids or not, where exactly you live, and if you want to go to more secluded beaches or go on weekend road trips, then you might want to consider purchasing it. If not, there are a lot of rideshare and public and private transportation services available in the area. Buses, which are pretty easy to navigate, will only cost you about 50 cents per ride. Ubers and taxis are generally pretty easy to get. Although if you're staying in the Nayarit area, you might want to also consider InDrive, which is a cheaper alternative to Uber that also goes through a bidding system, where you make an offer for a ride and the driver can choose to accept it or not, or counter it with a different offer. Kind of like the eBay of rideshare platforms. You can also expect to pay between $3 and $7 for a short ride on Uber and $10 to $25 for a longer ride. And if you choose to rent a car, they cost about $40 per day. But I've known people that are able to negotiate that down if they're going to rent on a monthly basis to about $25 per day. And of course, all of these costs can vary, so it's worth looking into closer to the date of your trip to see what the updated costs and options are. So next up, healthcare and insurance. Good news. Healthcare is affordable and high quality in Puerto Vallarta. If you're going to pay out of pocket, you can expect to pay $20 for general checkups at the doctor and between $40 and $60 for a specialist consultation. You can also go to the pharmacy if you're sick and you need a subscription to something, and that is free. All you really need to do is purchase the medication, which also does not require insurance coverage to purchase and is very affordable. As for the dentist, checkups and regular cleanings are going to cost about $40. And then for fillings, you can expect to spend between $60 and $100. And in-depth dental work varies depending on the kind of treatment you may require. But just to give you some perspective, dental tourism is very popular here in Puerto Vallarta because it's way more affordable than the US or Canada. Then there are private hospitals and emergency visits, and surgeries just estimate between 50 and 70% less expensive than the US. Now, of course, this is without insurance. If you are going to have insurance, you can expect to spend between 50 and $100 for local insurance or $200 to $500 per month for international insurance. So whether you choose to be covered or pay out of pocket, healthcare in Puerto Vallarta is much more affordable than North America, especially the United States. And finally, number 6, other costs such as entertainment, fitness, and childcare. So one big perk to living in Mexico is you can hire a nanny at much more affordable rates than in the US. You can expect to spend about $800 a month, more or less, for childcare, just depending on whether it's going to be full-time or part-time. And of course, how much you're willing to spend and what exactly you're looking for. Then there's school tuition, which is both a pro and con of living in Mexico because the public schools aren't really a viable option. So it's pretty much the expectation that you're going to be paying for private school if you have kids and you're choosing to move here to Mexico, unless, of course, you decide to homeschool. And these private schools can range anywhere from about $200 a month for a local private school to $500 a month for a more upscale national private school to about $1,000 a month for an international private school. So gym memberships, that can cost you anywhere from $30 to $80 a month or about $5 for a day pass if you just want to drop in once in a while. For yoga classes, you can expect to spend about $15 to $20 per session. And for Pilates, closer to $25 per session, but all of these can be reduced by purchasing packages of multiple classes. As far as entertainment, day passes for resorts will cost between $25 to $100 a day per person, but for a lot of them, you can consume against the entry fee. So if you're planning on going and eating and drinking anyway, then it might not actually be that high of a cost for you. One big thing when it comes to entertainment is also going to the movies. That's only about $2 for a regular ticket. And for $5, you can get VIP tickets, which involves sitting in a reclining chair and having wait staff service to bring you everything from popcorn and candy to bar and restaurant service as well. So that can be a pretty cool option and is definitely not very expensive. And of course, there's beach days, which are free. So basically, whether you want a luxury lifestyle or a budget-friendly one, Puerto Vallarta gives you options. I've actually recently started staycationing here because it's just such a beautiful place to experience this wide range between your daily life and also just going all out for a beautiful beach resort style vacation. And it really has all of that to offer depending on what your regular budget is, or if you just want to splurge once in a while, you have that choice. So is Puerto Vallarta affordable? Yes, but like anywhere, it depends on your lifestyle. You can live well on $1,500 to $2,500 USD per month if you're on a budget, but if you're looking for luxury, you can expect to spend $4,000 per month or more. And of course, if you have kids, well, kids are expensive anywhere you go. Are you thinking about making the move? Please let me know in the comments what your biggest question is about living in Puerto Vallarta. And if you're looking for property here, let's connect. I'd love to help you find your perfect home. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more real estate and lifestyle tips in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. See you next time.